When I first started with racing pigeons back in the 1960s as a teenager with my dad, we purchased a brand new thimbleless STB clock. One of the first thimbleless clocks available at that time. It was an improvement on the old thimble clocks where you had to remove the race rubber, place it in a thimble prior to clocking in, a very slow process back then. When I came back into pigeons in the early 80s, I could only afford a second-hand STB thimbleless clock, which was fine for that time, but with several shortcomings. The first was that they were a wind-up clock, and they would run for 6 to 7 days, depending on the individual clock. For most races this was fine, but when we flew the long races and the clocks were set on the Tuesday evening, and sometimes when the races were particularly hard, the clocks weren't read until Monday or even Tuesday, and now there was a real chance of the clock stopping. Another problem, and the reason why I changed my STB clock, was the loss and gain. They were notorious for losing time as the tension came off the wind-up spring. I lost a race because of this. I timed in one Saturday afternoon and the clock was gaining about 10 seconds at that time. For one reason or another, we didn't read those clocks until Monday evening, by which time the clock was losing time, which of course was added onto my flying time rather than taking off the actual 10-second gain I had when we clocked in. So the old STB was replaced with a benzene battery-operated clock. Same principle, with a paper roll and an ink stamp to record the time, but with battery power that would last as long as the battery did, and the loss of gain was much more stable. This was fine until along come electronic clocks, such as the Junior T3, a very good clock at that time, and it still is. No more winding the clock up, no more paper roll and messy ink pad, but I still had to remove the race rubber from the returning pigeon, place it in the T3 before stamping off. The electronic recordings were easy to read and the T3 clock was good to use, but then along came electronic band scanning systems. I started with the Benzing M1 clock in 2007 with 2 loft antenna pads. What a difference. No more catching the pigeon to remove the race rubber, which scared the birds for all future races. It was great for both me and the pigeons. Coupled with the Benzing docking station that allowed continuous clocking, even when the M1 was disconnected from the loft, it was a real game changer for pigeon racing. So now I'm using the Benzing M3 smart clock, coupled with the Benzing Smart Hub 5, giving me everything I could want as far as timing in racing pigeons. Satellite, phone and cloud technology to receive push notifications to my mobile, internet access to all my race and training results, including basketing and evaluation lists. Every detail of every pigeon is available at my fingertips. I don't know how I managed in the old days, but then again, I was a lot younger. These are the speakers that I have attached to the outside of the loft. Those speakers are connected to the timing in system just to increase the volume. So there's the GPS unit. You come down, you can see there's the controllers for the internal lights. You've got some main switches there as well. You've got some power points there. One's powering the speaker, the other one's powering up the battery charger right there. And that other timer there is controlling the internal fans or the under the floor fans. And this is the main clocking system. You've got your M3 and your Smart Hub. So this is the Benzing M3 smart clock. That's the clock connected to the Benzing Smart Hub 5. You've got your cable connection between the two of them. This is the speakers, the external speakers coming in here. Your 240 volt power comes in via this one through the Benzing adapter. I've also got the battery power coming into the hub by that connection there. And all that battery power is connected down here and controlled by the battery charger with all the wiring runs down this white conduit before going into the underfloor area where the battery is stored. The battery is just a motorcycle ride-on type 12 volt battery protected with a 3 amp fuse. I have 2 underfloor Benzing antenna which sit under the area where the pigeons land. Notice there's a board between the 2 antenna to take my weight when I walk over the same floor. This is my Benzing M3 smart clock connected to the Smart Hub 5. Gives me access to all of the internet access that Benzing provide. Cloud technology through the GPS. Connects to my mobile phone. It's a touchscreen clock. This is my Benzing M3 smart clock. Your mobile phone, to the Smart Hub 5 gives me access to a dummy race here. You can see internet access that Benzing provide. Cloud technology through the GPS. The 3 birds that are in the race. Mobile phone. You go up here to management, very similar to your mobile. You put in the race, your mobile phone. I've set up a, so I'll just change dummy race here. So you can see that doesn't show any birds have arrived. Hit expected. Say 12 o'clock, they were released. In the race. Put a distance in, to management. Distance, say 200 put in the race. Release time. You can put all of this into your mobile phone as well through Benzing's My Pigeons website. That gives you complete access to the pigeons coming home. So if we look at some of the stuff before that, we can go into systems. You can see there's the Benzing M3, the Smart Hub 5. They're drawing 14.4 and 14.4 volts. Shows what it's connected to. That's the Optus phone line it's get to. It's got 55, or rather 51% access at the moment, which is more than enough. There's two 12-speed antennas there, and they're drawing 13.1 and 13.4 volts collectively. I can go to settings. In the device settings, I can change the volume, that one there. I can set the amount of light that it's showing. Obviously I'm using English, and it's set up the time zones automatic. It's plus 10 hours on green managed time, green mean time, whatever it was. And there's some other information in there which I won't go into other than printing settings. I've got it set on club system and printer. Obviously if you're going to get it printed through the club system, you need that set. You can do an antenna test. Run a ring over the antenna. Can show you which parts of the antenna may not be working, if any. Go to pigeons. You can see these are the pigeons that are coupled. I can go into those pigeons and change things. I can change the life band and so forth. I can delete the coupling if I want to. That's quite handy if you lose pigeons. I find it useful to delete the coupling off there but leave the pigeon in there. That way if it comes home you just can couple it back up again. You can change the colour. I'll put in the colour if needed. Change the sex, hen, cock. You can save that information. You'll notice that these 3 up here don't have the little blue arrow there. That's because they're the 3 that are locked in a race. You can't change those. Obviously they're locked into a race, can't be changed. Not coupled. These are pigeons up here that haven't been coupled. Once again I can click on those. I can go in and make any necessary changes. If I want to, I can simply couple that pigeon. That pigeon's now coupled. You just hit the save button and that pigeon's been added into the coupled list. So the management part, can register a new pigeon in this area. So where you would put in a new pigeon. So you put in your country, obviously we're AU. So you'd put in your characters there. I won't go through all of that. Pretty obvious what you do, the year and so forth. Once you've got all that in there, you just save it. It's not coming up there because I didn't finish putting it all in. Back to the race. We've got the race there, expecting. So when those pigeons come home, it'll be registered. So we'll have a bit of a look at that. So you can see 2 pigeons have potentially came home there in this test race we've set up. You've got the information here. You can click on that and it tells you how they were basketed. That's mainly for European because they're, first bird nominated type of thing. It tells me that I'm still missing a pigeon. That's very handy, of course, if you want to go in and find out which ones aren't there. And the rest of that we've already put in. If I had paid for evaluation, I could do home evaluation here. I haven't done that because I like taking my clock to the club. Some people prefer to do self-evaluation, so you can set that up quite easily. So that's probably all I really wanted to show you on this. Training, I didn't go through training, so you can start training. That's started training now. That started with every pigeon that was left in the loft. So all of those pigeons now are potentially away at a training race. I can go up to the management. I can put in the time those birds were released. So let's say they were released at 1 o'clock. That'll be close enough. I'll put in a distance, say 120 kilometres. Put that in. That's set up now, still set there as not arrival. So if any of those pigeons were to come home, so we now got training and race. So if we get back to the home, you can see there now we've got training. It's separated the birds that were training from the birds that were racing. Obviously needs to do that. The only other thing I'd point out is that this little symbol up here with a 2 on it, that's quite useful to have a look at on race day. That's telling me that both of my antennas are working and that the clock has found them. It's obviously very important that it does that, otherwise if the pigeon comes home you're not going to time it in. Now all of this information on this clock can also be found or put into your mobile phone using the My Pigeons website that Benzing provide. I'll go into that a little bit later and show you some more about that, but that's basically what My M3 or how My M3 works. This is the My Pigeons website. If you get a notification on your mobile phone that a pigeon's arrived home, if you click on that pigeon it'll take you through this screen. You can do it on your mobile phone, but I'm actually doing it on the computer because you can get to this site obviously on your computer as well. So clicking on that pigeon would bring you to a screen something similar to this. This is the My Pigeons website. So down here is the pigeon that's come home. You can see in the test here I've got those 2 pigeons that came home there. It's got up here, I can click on basketing and it says that I've actually sent 3 pigeons and I've only got 2 of them have arrived home, which are those 2 that are there. I hit on the expected button and it'll tell me this is the one that's missing. I can go to the management, which you would go to before the race started, and you can put in some information in here. I can put in here the liberation point. I'll go back to roll anywhere. Put in the distance. Put in 200 kilometres. You would get that distance from I could get that from my valuation program that the Federation have. Put in the release date. Pick whichever date you wanted. So this would say the 25th. Push that in, you put in the release time, put in the release time, I'd put in the release time, so you'd say they went up at 6 o'clock this morning, put in 0, so you've got that put in there, whatever you want in there. You can look down here and this tells you that whatever connected to your clock. The device is offline at the moment, I'm only doing this as a test, but it shows me that that's my clock, it's got my number down there. If I had paid for an evaluation, I could hit evaluation here and I can evaluate that loft. That's a separate thing to what I've got in here. I can download the basketing list that we did on the basketing night, and I can download an Excel file as well. I can do the evaluation list. If everything was evaluated, I'd be able to download everything down here. So that's got all of that information that I can put in there. I go back to the pigeons that arrived. The velocity is obviously all over the place because I'm not setting anything up here correctly. But if I click on that pigeon comes up. Now this is an interesting part. You can click on this little gear part here and there's quite a few little things you can do. You can change the picture. That's the pigeon that it'll be up for every single pigeon, but you can change that by putting in a pigeon a photograph of the pigeon you might actually have. You can look at cage records, medical records if you've done all of that. Transfer. This is more to do with overseas than it is to do with us. Edit the details is something I like to do. You can put the name of the pigeon in, bred by, so forth. But one of the things I think is good to do is to put in sire and dam in the description. Put in sire and dam in the description and you save it. So when you come down to that pigeon, when that pigeon comes home and it lands on your clock, you'll be able to click on it and see straight away what its sire and its dam was, and that's very good information. Now, as far as looking at the performance, the program is set for club racing, which is a little bit unfortunate. I think it should be set for loft, but you can change it over here to loft, on loft. You can change it from races or training. It'll do the lowest coefficient, which is not something we normally do. But you can see this pigeon here is listing what down the pigeon's only been in one race, where it came and so forth. So you get some information there, you get a graph, all of which is not all that much of much use, I don't think. I can look here on club flights. It'll tell me what distances it's flown. So later in the season, once you've got a lot of information in here, it can be quite useful to see what's been happening in there over seasons, over performances and so forth. So back up here is where your tools are. So you can go to My Loft, you can look at Smart Loft. It'll tell you everything that's connected up there. Now all of my show offline devices, hidden devices, I can look at that. So there's my live ID and password. There's my Benzing M3, got a description about it, the M3, the firmware and so forth. It says I've got a Smart Hub 5, it's got its serial number if I need to find it, got all the details about it. It'll have the satellites listed up there, mobile connection because it connects to my mobile phone. I've got the couple of 12 field speed antennas over here. There's their serial numbers if I needed that information. It'll tell me if they're working and the amount of power and everything they're using if I have them turned on at the moment, which I don't. And I've got a sensor in the loft as well, a temperature sensor. If all of that was turned on, I could have a look right now and tell you what the temperature was, what the humidity is in the loft. So they're available from Benzing too, and it's a quite good way of seeing everything that's connected to your loft. Back up to the menu, I can go to results. This is for the clubs. You can look through and find your club if your club's affiliated with it, and you can check through on race day and find various information there. My Loft, I've got my pigeons. These are all the pigeons that have been entered into there. I can filter and sort those, so they're all the test pigeons. Over here I can change them to whatever I want, so if I lost that pigeon I just put it down as missing. That changes to missing. If I don't want that pigeon to list there, I'd go into filter and sort. So I can filter on the country, the year, but I'll filter on the ring number. So if I just put in any ring number in there, so that pigeon comes up there. That's the way I would find that pigeon. I'd click on that. Once again it takes me to that screen where I can go in and make those changes, put in the details and everything for it. But if I scroll down here rather I should say, I can see that information. We're back to where we were. You can hit on the settings and go back through all that. My Loft again, races. I can look at all the races that I've competed in. So these are test races I've put in, but I've just been playing around with it. But if I go to races like these ones down here, these are ones that I actually flew last year. So I go down there, I can see all the pigeons that came home, see what time I've got them, I can click on them and see the velocities of them. Should have listed there. There's where that detail is up there as far as the siren dam. I can see it's a hen, it's a red checker, I'm the owner of it. There's the siren dam which I put in, which made that quite available, quite useful. So the tools, I've got the tools, fancier database, distance calculator, pigeon listing, liberation size, lost pigeons. Most of that stuff I find is not much use to you. Trainings, there's all the trainings that you did. So trainings last year, like Forest Glen, I had that there, I set that up for the training. So once again, you go to the gear management over here, put in the name, Forest Glen, put in the distance, put in latitude, longitude. I don't need that because I've put in the distance, which I just got off Google Earth, put in the release date, put in the release time, and that's created that particular piece of training. Come back to it, Forest Blend, and there's the pigeons that come home. This pigeon here is the first bird home, foreign pigeon. It'll be a pigeon that's come back at some stage, or a stray pigeon. List them as a foreign bird. So there's all the pigeons that come home. There's another foreign one listed there. There's all the pigeons that come home and the order in which they came home. So all your training records from previous years are always there, and you can set up new ones all the time, of course. Just set it up in the clock. Put all the information into the clock as well. Liberation point. So that's My Pigeons. That's the Benzing Live website that you can go to. You've got to have the app on your phone. You need to have the Benzing Live app installed on your phone to get the push notification. That'll come through on your phone, and then you can see which bird came home. Click on that bird and it'll take you through to this website. Okay, I hope you found that interesting. Okay, it's time to pull some of the flights that I cut 10 days ago. So we'll do 2 in this bloke. Simple matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're all out. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just got 1 flight to do on this pigeon. Thing is just to pull them straight out, no twisting. Just grab the flight, hold it back up here, quick tug and it's out. Two to go, same thing, just hold the wing, pull, pull, one on this cock. It's hard to film it while I'm doing it, it's easier without the camera. Just hold the wing and a quick pull and it's out. Main thing is don't twist them. If you twist them trying to pull them out, you could damage it. Other than that, it's perfectly fine. Nice pile of feathers for the compost bin. That's another job complete. It's the same afternoon that I pulled the flights. Just goes to show you it doesn't do them any harm whatsoever. They wouldn't be out flapping their wings like that if their wings were sore.